Alright, so we can finally talk about the Puppet Master movies that I have not seen yet. And this is the first watch for Puppet Master Axis of Evil. And honestly, going into this movie, I didn't know what to expect. But I'd honestly say this is one of the more entertaining Puppet Master movies overall. In terms of like ranking them, I'd say I'd rank it like, I don't know, like in the top 5 of the Puppet Master movies in terms of entertainment alone. I thought that this was really fun. I liked a lot how this opened up with the opening scene of Puppet Master 1. So it's after Retro Puppet Master and Puppet Master 3, where Toulon has been evading Nazis, and he went to the Bodega Bay Inn, and then he left his trunk of puppets and put it in the wall, and then he shot himself, and then this character, Danny, finds the trunk and then finds the puppets and takes him home. And honestly, the way it's integrated in is really cool. Like, I really actually enjoyed showing the scenes from the first movie, the flashback scene in the first movie in 1939, and then showing it in this movie where Danny, the main character of this movie, is just in the hotel at the same time, and then he encounters him after he shoots himself and finds the puppets. And Danny just forms like a fun bond with these puppets. Him and his girlfriend Beth, like, they have this fun time with these puppets that are, while they're evaded by Nazis and who are Germans who are also working with a Japanese woman. It's kind of silly. Like, I mean, of course, it's Puppet Master. They're all going to be silly, but I thought it was really fun. Like, overall, it wasn't boring. A lot of these movies, I feel like, to me personally, can be really uninteresting, and the puppets are great, but this is one of the ones where I feel like the plot is one of the most interesting. Not good, but interesting. Like, it's fun and watchable because it's so silly. And I thought the opening credits were really cool too, honestly. I want to mention that. Like, in this movie, I feel like they really had a cool budget for the effects on the opening credits. And the movie overall, it's still a cheap movie. Like, it's a low budget movie like all the other ones, but I finally get to see one that's better definition, so it looks better, and it looks like, in terms of like how it's shot, it looks better and it looks more interesting and it looks less cheap, but it still is, but it looks less cheap though, and I like that. I appreciate that this looked a little more theatrical, even though the first couple were theatrical. They didn't really look very theatrical, but yeah, I enjoyed the opening credits a lot. The opening credits were a really cool addition, and the acting, I thought, in this was better than most of the Puppet Master movies. Like this one in particular, I thought that the acting from everybody is not always amazing, but the acting in it is really solid from a lot of characters. Like, the Danny character is totally fine. The Beth character's fine. Like, this first scene with Danny and his mother and his brother is a really good scene just because it's so... I mean, it's a simple scene and the acting's solid. I liked it. I thought that this felt different than the other movies in terms of the acting and in terms of how it looked. There are cheap things about it, though, like I said, because it still is a cheap movie. Like, the puppets sometimes look worse, sometimes they look better, so it's interesting. And, like, the puppets are barely in it until, like, the last 20 minutes, but I never was bored. I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't mind these characters. And I liked how Danny's brother gets killed and his mother gets killed, but Danny uses the serum to put his brother's, like, spirit into the ninja puppet. I thought that was really fun and really funny, and the ninja puppet was a cool new addition. Like, I thought that was a cool little character. Like, he's got shurikens. Like, that's fun. So overall, like, it's one of those, like, I'm glad I watched it. Like, this is, again, a first watch for me for this one, and I really enjoyed it. Honestly, I'd say it's one of the better Puppet Master movies, because I don't love any of them. maybe except for 3. I really like 3. But this one, I know, is in the top 5 out of the 12 or 13 movies that Puppet Master has. It's definitely in the top 5, definitely, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's just a fun, silly time. And overall, it honestly surprised me. Like, I was just surprised. There were a lot of good things about it. Not always great, but there's still fun things about it. It's a really fun, solid, a really silly time.